Of Unscripted. Today is March 8th, and we are going to be reacting today to a little bit of good news this time. Michigan State 53, Northwestern 49, a final from a couple nights ago. Um, yeah, senior night. It was awesome atmosphere in the Breslin Center. Johnny and I were both in the house, and it was our senior night, last home game that we have in college as Spartan students. But obviously, senior night mostly evolves around the players as it should. But yeah, Johnny, I'll start with you. Get some of your thoughts. What stood out to you from the senior night win over Northwestern?
You said it. Senior night, obviously, there's a lot of emotions for, I think, everybody really in that building. That's just how it is when the Spartan culture, right? With these guys, you grow to love them, and no matter what happens. But obviously, a great win, much needed win. I think we were talking about the stress at the end of that game, of that feeling of not just you have to win this game, because it was like playing in your way into the tournament type feeling, right? So I bet the players felt that, but Izzo felt that. But obviously, it was a hard fought game, a very good Northwestern team. We know that. Um, Not a great shooting night, 12% from three, 30, 31, 32% overall. But the defense got it done. Some excellent play from Trey off the bench. And, the leaders stepped up. Tyson had a great game, 19. Malik Hall, 17 rebounds. Your guys stepped up when it mattered most.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, you got it. You said it a little bit. Terrible shooting night. The Spartans got off to an awful start, and it kind of felt like like the Ohio State game a little bit from what I heard about it. Just how slow the offense was at times. But yeah, 31% from the floor, and then but you also brought up Trey. Trey Holloman was massive off the bench, 12 points. He hit two threes. Yeah, he was really playing a lot of good minutes, controlling the pace in the game. I thought the rotations Izzo was going with, I liked a lot more. Um, which is kind of hard to talk about a little bit because well, it's not hard to talk about, but it's a little contradictory because I was happy with the lineups, but the output wasn't there. Their offense was still struggling. But yeah, I wrote it down. Kohler led the centers with 13 minutes. Booker had 10, Sissoko 9, and Cooper had 8. So overall, like not a lot of minutes as in a whole from a lot of the centers. We saw the five out lineup with Malik at the five and Cohen Carr at the four. With the rotation of Akins, Akins, Walker, Bogart, and Holloman in the backcourt. Um, yeah, and I just like those lineups. It was a tough night for Akins as well, shooting 0 points, 0 for 7 from the floor, but it happens. That's definitely not something I think that Spartan fans need to be worried about. I think it was just a bit of an off night for Akins. But yeah, I keep going back to the energy in the Brez. It's really what stands out to me. Boo Booey had an air ball pretty early on in the second half and he got the airball chant for I think 8 minutes or so of game time. It was like 30 minutes of real time, where even and fans that were watching it on TV don't really get the full gist of it because it was during timeouts too. The student section with his zone was not letting up, um, and that's just kind of goes back to what you were saying. The Spartan culture, it's something special, and I tweeted about it that night a few times. It was just it was a really awesome atmosphere, really great place to be. It's a special fan base and it's a special building. It's a special program and I know so that's why there's so many fans that feel so a part of it like you and I do.
Yeah, you nailed it. And for me, coming from the outside, like not having any connection before college and being able to leave, I feel just as close as, everyone. And it's something special. And to go off, what you said, being in the ISO the past 3 years, that was probably one of the more cool, like just like crazy moments where the entire TV timeout, just the airball chant just kept going. And it was just like, you don't see that. And obviously, it's towards Boo Booey, who has been a Spartan killer. And so, but that was just a really fun part of the game. And like you said, such a special thing, right? Was the senior. We could touch on that. But I'll go back to what you said with the rotations. And yeah, I think they were a lot better last night. Could have something to do with, Northwestern having to play a little bit smaller, right, without Nicholson. So I think we didn't really see, I'm not sure, I would have to go back and look any double big man lineups. I'm not really sure we
I don't
saw that.
remember
Like,
any.
yeah.
I don't
Like what?
off the top of my head, I can't remember. I think maybe Kohler and Booker played a couple minutes
Mhm.
together, but that would
And
be it.
that wouldn't kill me either. Like we didn't see Kohler, Cooper, we didn't see Cooper, Madi, and I think when you were saying those minutes, it hit me. You're saying the minutes, I'm like, oh, that adds up pretty close to 40, and that's what you were getting. And we saw, I thought Madi played really well, even though he only had 9 minutes. He was really, I thought, it was locked in. I think we haven't really seen that from of late, maybe. Cooper was all right. Um, Booker again, no output like you said, but and then you obviously have been on Kohler train, and for him to really close out that game, again, no offensive output, but I thought he played really good defense. Got a couple clutch rebounds, and yeah, I think hopefully that's a sign to come where we don't see those double lineup. I'm hoping that wasn't just based off matchup, but again, I think mixing and matching at the five and really keeping your guards and Malik Hall and Trey like that. You four out there and you mix and match that five. A good thing to come.
Yeah, and again, I'm making a point here off. It's a bad time to be making the point, but I've had this thought for a while, and I'm not sure if I've said it on the podcast, but the thing with Xavier Booker for me is like when he's in, he makes specifically Hogard. Hogard benefits so much when Booker's in because then there's no one just sitting in the paint. Like when Cooper and Madi are in, even if they go out for a screen or something, the guy guarding him knows they're not gonna spot up and take a jump shot. And so he can just control like the opposing big man all season against Michigan State has been able to essentially just sit in the paint and make it much harder for driving lanes to open up and for Hogard to be able, specifically Hogard, just because I think he gets downhill and gets to the bucket more than the other guards. Um, and it just hinders him when he can't do that. And I think Booker being in a lot of the times opens it up. And I think so for Malik too, because Malik will go into that little post up on the baseline. Um, and I think it just gives the floor so much more spacing that allows the offense to run so much smoother. But yeah, I don't know. This game was a little sloppy. It obviously not it was very obviously low scoring. You touched on it a little bit at the start when I asked you. The defense did look very strong. And the Spartans were able to control the rebounding. They won the rebounding battle 46 to 35. Again, Northwestern a little bit smaller, but late in the season when all you need to do is win games to try and make sure you get in the tournament, it doesn't really matter how you do it as long as you get it done, and that's what the Spartans were able to do.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like you said, Malik Hall, I think it was 7 offensive rebounds, right? The team had, I think it said 17, 18. I don't know. That's got to be a season high,
19.
19.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, they crashed the glass, right? With them being smaller, it was an opportunity there. And, just kind of just staying locked in, right? Northwestern kind of got off, I'm not gonna say to a hot start because there was not, you know, big scoring, but they definitely had, I think, an 8 point, 9 point lead at one point. And then that's when I think Trey kind of came in and all of a sudden it was like an 8-0 run to squash that. But again, it was just kind of staying locked in, again, a really good team. And, they really only play, their four main guys played the entire game basically. So you really knew what you were going up against. And, just closing it out, again, Tyson, not the best overall shooting night, 8 of 21, but a couple late, just, get to the basket. That's where he is just I know he loves the mid range, and it'd be great for him to knock down some threes. But when he gets to the basket, he is special at finishing through contact, and the moves he can do are next to none. So I just love seeing him be able to attack and really close it out for us.
Yeah, and speaking of closing it out, back to Trey Holloman. Spartans were up two with 9 seconds left. Trey gets fouled, goes to the line. And I remember the buddies that I was with at the game, they kind of looked at me, they're like, what do we think about Holloman going to the line to try and ice it? And I was like, I think I love it. And then I look back and Trey's hyping up the
Yeah,
crowd as he's walking to the
I
free
was
throw.
shocked by that, but
It's like, yeah,
the type of
he's
confidence
making
he had.
both of these.
Yeah.
Like he has to make these. So that was a great moment. And I also wanted to say shout out to Keon Coleman. I know he will not be listening to this, but former Spartan football player and basketball player. I think that's what kind of got lost in the shuffle was a lot of people, a lot of non-Spartan fans, at least on Twitter, might have forgotten that Keon Coleman played a season for Tom Izzo, um, and was a two-sport athlete originally at Michigan State before transferring down to Tallahassee. But shout out to Keon. Best of luck to him in the NFL draft next month. Excited for that. But it was just really cool. After the game, he was hanging out with Akins and Trey and Nick Sanders and Fears, watching this uh senior night celebrations, and then there's a picture of him and Izzo embracing each other on the court. Really just cool, really cool stuff. Kind of again goes back to that Spartan culture and the family that Tom Izzo's created here. Um, yeah, and then I also just want to talk a little bit about the senior night. Um, obviously it's tough with when you've got a team full of veterans. Malik Hall had his senior day last year, so that's why he didn't participate again this year. But you had Walker, Hogard, Sissoko, and then who am I forgetting? Davis Smith, and then obviously there was the big one with Steven Izzo. And that one got really emotional. His tribute video was a little bit longer than the others, and you could tell there was not many dry eyes in the stadium. It was really emotional. And I read a piece earlier this week in The Athletic about Steven Izzo and Coach Izzo and his wife's kind of struggle with having children of their own and adopting Steven and his whole story. And it was a great piece. And it was a great career by Steven Izzo. Like what he was able to do was really cool. Obviously, he scored 2 points or whatever it was, 3 points, I forget. But um, it was just really cool moment to see father and son and Steven being, my size, 5'8", about 150 pounds. Um, yeah, he knew he wasn't a basketball player, but he just wanted to be around the program, and um, Coach Izzo gave him the opportunity. So really cool there. And kind of back to the night, I guess. Izzo got asked before, or either before or after the game, I forget, about Hogard and Sissoko because they could take their 5th year of eligibility for COVID year, and he kind of gave a bit of an interesting answer. Said, um, "My seniors are my seniors. That's the way I look at it," or something along those lines, kind of implying that it would be their last game and that they're not going to come back. I don't know if that's just the way I interpreted it or if that is kind of the message that Izzo's getting across, but I guess from my point of view, I think it is time to probably move on for both sides in for Sissoko and Hogard and Michigan State. Um, they've had good careers here, but I do think it's time to move on and kind of get the next wave going and give the keys to this program over to, guys like Trey Holloman and Jeremy Fears.
Yeah, and then glad you brought it up because that's how I interpret it too. And it's definitely tough, right? We're just exiting like the last year of people allowed that COVID year, and I would think both of them, as great Spartans, would move on and probably use it somewhere else. And I think it would be probably a mutual decision, right, between Izzo and these guys, and definitely talking Hogarth, right, a great player. But we, like you said, that youth we have was Fierce and Trey, and then coming in Jace Richardson and Kurt Tang. It's just that youth, um, and just seeing really Trey grow into this role throughout this year and continue to get better and better. And then seeing obviously short time with Fierce, his leadership, obviously it's a huge bright spot for us going forward. But obviously, it's tough to lose someone like that and to see him go somewhere else and play another uniform would be difficult to see if that were to happen. But that was kind of how I interpreted that too.
Yeah. And, I think I think it's good. I don't know. It's kind of tough to talk about, I feel like. Um I don't know. I feel weird talking about guys coming back or not. And it's obviously kind of like what you said. I think it'll probably be a mutual decision. Um but yeah, I don't really have anything else. You got anything else?
Yeah, I mean, just I was going to mention senior night thing too. Just the emotion across the board for all these guys, right? For Tyson and Malik, really just being the guys that we've really watched in Hogard, right? And then Mahdi with his brother being there. That was an awesome, awesome scene, right? And you could tell how much I think Mahdi has really grown and how much he loves the community and vice versa. And then seeing David Smith with his father, and then obviously Izzo, uh, the emotion there, and you touched on that. Just the special and the story, like you said, I read it, amazing. And just he got to live his dream basically, right? You saw it in the piece of him as a kid and being around the program all the time. He talked about the coaches and just a pro act all around, but he really lived that dream. that he worked for it too. I mean, there's no, you don't just get to be on the team because the coach is saying he worked for that. And you could see how much it really meant for him yesterday walking out with his family and being able to kiss the court. So just obviously the game was tight and all, and no one didn't get to kiss the court walking off, but definitely a forever moment we all got to witness last night, and for everyone in that stadium.
Yeah, it was a really, really special moment. And I can't stop thinking about it. And even like obviously you kind of brought it up a little bit. You've got Walker and Hogard and Sissoko, these guys who have been starters for multiple years, and we've been watching, and everyone knows. But then you've got Davis Smith, whose dad is one of the all-time greats, and Davis Smith had that awesome moment earlier this season at the Michigan game, knocking down two free throws. And he's been a leader, and we've talked about him a couple times on the show this year because he had that quote before the after the Iowa game saying, I was looking around, I could tell these guys weren't locked in. Like I think fans probably don't, and I'm including myself in this, understand the true value that someone like Davis Smith has to a program. But yeah, it was really cool to see him get his flowers. And again, we don't have to keep talking about Steven, but really, really, really cool stuff with Steven. And I guess the last thing I will say about it is kind of weird because like he's our age, so I remember when I was like 10 years old and watching Spartan basketball and like seeing Steven cut down the nets with Izzo. And it's just kind of cool to see him now like, you know, we're moving on. We're moving up. Spartans for life though. So that's how we do it here in East Lansing. I'm all set. You got anything else?
No, nothing. I mean, we touched on everything. Obviously, who's still a huge game Sunday at Indiana. They're playing probably their best ball of the year at this moment, winning a couple straight. No easy task going into Assembly Hall. I think we both think at this moment we'd be a lock-ish. Like if we were to lose Indiana and lose that first game, Big 20 be in it, I think it'd still be a scary Sunday. But if they could go in to Assembly Hall, get a huge road win, and really have that confidence going to the Big Ten tournament and just forward, would be a great thing to see.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think they are looking good for the tournament, but can never be too sure. But yeah, regular season finale Sunday at 4:30 in Bloomington, as Johnny said. Assembly Hall, great place. It's on the bucket list. I need to make a trip down there. We'll see, maybe Sunday, but probably not. Anyways, thanks guys for listening. Go follow Field68. Subscribe to the YouTube. Follow me on Twitter. Follow Johnny on Twitter. Follow, do all the things, all the follows. Click all the buttons. Do things.